years. When I was 25 years old, I was invited to go and speak in Vietnam by a missionary. And it's a long story how I even got there. I was in the middle of my theological training, and to go to Vietnam, it was in the thick of the war in 71, 3 years after the infamous Tet Offensive, and a lot was going wrong at that time. So here I was, a single young man, and was hosted by the chaplains, and the American troops ferried me around, flew me around through the length and breadth, but most of it was done on motorbike with a 17-year-old young man. We'd pack our backpacks on, my Bible and sermon book. We'd go from town to town, from village to village, and I was speaking. Incredible. 17-year-old young Hien fam. I was 25, cumulative age, 42. At the end of it, we left, and some years later, I was sitting at an airport reading a book on the history of the church in Vietnam. And it talks about a revival that broke out in 1971 when two young men were preaching through the country. I said, I think that's talking about Hien and myself being there. And sure enough, when they said why it happened, I said, my word. I didn't know so much had happened as a result of those meetings. Then missionaries confirmed it. So when it was over in 71, August 71, I embraced him, said, Hien, I may never see you again. And bade him goodbye. 17 years later, I was in Vancouver, British Columbia. Late one evening, my telephone rang. And a voice on the other end of the phone says, Brother Ravi. I said, Hien? He said, how did you know? I said, you're the only one who melodically called me Brother Ravi. I said, is that you? He said, yes. I said, where on earth are you calling from? He said, from California. I said, what are you doing in California? He said, have you got some time? I said, sure. And so he started to tell the story. It was 1988. He says, Brother Ravi, after you left, the Viet Cong took over, overran South Vietnam. Many were arrested. I was arrested. I was put in prison. I was put in prison because they said I worked with the CIA. I told them I didn't. They said, oh, yes, you did. You interpreted for people. They even knew I was interpreting for you as a preacher and all this, and you'd come from the West. He said they arrested me and put me behind bars. They took away my Bible. They took away all my English books. The only books they gave me were by Marx and Engels. Marx and Engels. Marxism, breakfast, lunch, tea, and dinner. That's all I could do. And in French and Vietnamese. No English. Marx and Engels, French and Vietnamese. He said, finally it got into my head, atheism. And I said, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. All I've believed is false. And he said, Brother Ravi, I thought of you and the messages and the revival and all that happened. I said, maybe it's all nonsense. I went to bed that night and I said, God, I'm never going to pray to you again. I don't even know if you exist. No more prayers from me. He said, I woke up in the morning, decided I was not going to pray for the first time in many, many years. And I went to see the commanding officer, and he assigned me to clean the latrines. I was going to clean the bathroom. He said, Brother Ravi, I don't know if you've ever seen a bathroom in a prison like that. He said, the whole stench in the air, and he went on and described the horrible place it was. He said, and at the end of it, he said, I had to cover my nose and my mouth so I didn't breathe that air. He said, I was dumping in a can full of used toilet paper, but paper with excrement on it. And I noticed one paper with English. He said, I looked around, hosed it off, put it into my hip pocket. He said, at night under the mosquito net, when everybody was asleep, that damp piece of paper, I opened it, and on the top corner it said, Romans chapter 8. And he started reading. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are called according to his purpose. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, nor the present nor the future, nor any powers, nor height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. He said, all alone under my mosquito net, I burst out crying, and I thought I'd wake everybody up. He said, I said, Lord, you wouldn't let me out of your reach for even one day. He said, on my knees, I resurrendered my life to Christ. I went the next morning to the commanding officer and said, do you mind if I clean the latrines again today? He said, I found out that the commanding officer had a Bible and every day was tearing pages from the Bible, using it for his toilet paper, dumping it into the can. I was washing it and having my devotions at night, every night. Finally, they released him, and he started to build a ship, a boat, that he could escape. And 52 others helped fund it, including, I think, the daughter or somebody of the vice president of Vietnam. So they were planning to escape. And one day, 4 Viet Cong came and to his door, pulled him out and said, are you planning to escape? He said, no. He said, are you telling us the truth? He said, yes. He said, telling us the truth? He said, yes. So they left. He said, after they left, I prayed a prayer that I hoped would never be answered. I said, God, I'm sorry I lied. If you really want me to tell them the truth, bring them back before we leave. And just hours before they would leave, these 4 boys armed to the teeth came, took him by the collar, rammed him against a wall. You are trying to escape, and you lied to us. He said, yes, I am, but 52 others. Are you going to kill me? They said, no, we want to go with you. And 4 of them got onto the boat. He said, we were on the high seas. In a storm, we were to capsize. These 4 boys knew exactly how to navigate and get us. We got to Thailand. I was in a camp, refugee camp. America opened its doors to me. I'm now doing my business degree at Berkeley, he said. He flew to Atlanta to meet my children because he wanted me to come and officiate at his wedding. And I'll never forget sitting around the table one night, young Hien looked at my kids and he said, you know, you'll wander all over the world. You'll go through all kinds of things trying to find happiness. He said, I want to tell you, the answer is right here and now. It is intimacy with God.